Have you ever felt frustrated, overwhelmed, or stuck wasting time in admin instead of growing, leveraging, and scaling your business? Then this podcast is for you. Welcome to Delegate to Elevate, the podcast that's all about handing off what you don't need to do so you can focus on what you do best. So here's your host, Bonnie Schutz.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Delegate to Elevate. Get done. I'm your host, Bonnie Schutz, and I'm so happy that you're here today. Thank you so much for tuning in again. Episode, 64, 65-ish. Yay. Woohoo. I have brought a guest with me today, and I didn't even ask him when we were chit-chatting, if I'm going to pronounce his last name right. So correct me if I'm wrong. This is Eric Whitmoyer. Is that correct? Awesome. Okay. So Eric Whitmoyer is the powerhouse behind MyBiz Coaches, where he's on a mission to help 1,000 businesses reach the dreamy multi-million-dollar mark. Profitability, not chaotically, with 25 plus years in sales, ops, and leadership, plus a double whammy certification in success principles and company culture. Eric knows how to scale smart. He and his team use their signature 6 core competencies to diagnose what's holding you back and fix it fast. He's also the host of the Biz Coach Show podcast, where strategy meets straight talk. Well, I like strategy and straight talk. Hello, Eric. Thanks for being here.
Hello. Thank you very much, Bonnie. I really appreciate it. And I love your read-in. As a matter of fact, I'm going to hire you to do that for me every time.
Well, I have to confess that I have been asked a couple times to start doing voiceover work. So maybe it's my third act.
There you go. There you go.
I am
I
funny
can see
enough.
that.
I used to be the one that would leave the messages at my corporate offices. Thank you for calling, blah, blah, blah. Like push 1 for blah, I love doing that. So maybe that's my third act. Thank
There
you
you go.
for
Well, I can tell you, I
edifying that
hate
for
doing
me.
that.
And I did do my brother-in-law's like about a year ago for his business. So happy to help you out. You could hire me if you'd like as a VA. So anyway, I would just like to tell everybody that I met Eric coincidentally because, I have always been pretty much, I'm 10 years in my business and pretty much been an all inbound sales led founder organization, right? And so I started to dive into what it's like to do outbound sales. And yes, I finally decided to pay for LinkedIn Sales Navigator. and I don't know, I started to dabble in it, and, I started to put my little queries in and whatnots. And it was kind of for my business, but it was also very much for this podcast. Cause I don't need a million guests, but I want to find more people outside of my networks, the networks that I'm used to bringing on and that I know personally, because, there's a big world out there. So I'm in Colorado. Where are you, Eric?
I'm in Chandler, Arizona.
Arizona. Gotta love Arizona. Except when I'm feeling like I am, ladies. You feel me. I'm fanning myself right now because it's like one of them hot situations. Anywho, I digress. But thank you so much. I know you are an expert at what you do, or else you wouldn't be teaching, you wouldn't be coaching, you wouldn't have a podcast called the Biz Coach Show. So tell me a little bit more about yourself, like where you came from, where you're headed, and what you're doing now.
Yeah. So I spent like 25 years in the wireless industry, and I cannot possibly. I've tried multiple times to try and explain to somebody everything that I did while I did that. But what the easiest way to explain it was, we were dealers for the carriers. So in layman's terms, we were like the franchise to the franchisor, the franchisee to the franchisor. And so we basically sold the either T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon, or whatever in the stores that we operated. And so when you do that, you're running a business within a business, right? You're operating their business, but you're running your own business. And it was a very interesting, and I say paging, I say wireless. It was paging when I started, so I'm dating myself a bit here. But I watched. What was interesting is I watched over those years. I watched the industry change. It went from paging into analog cellular, and then it went into digital wireless, and then it evolved into the portable computers we use today. And through that, I personally opened about 150 retail stores. I've managed teams of 200 to 400 people. I've had some really
Oh,
big organizations that I was responsible for. And with all of that, you can't possibly say I was a sales manager or I was a this manager or a that man. There was so many, you wore all the hats, right? And yeah, and so one of the challenges and or benefits was that I learned a little bit about everything. So ironically, throughout the years, as that career took off for me, I did financially, I did well. So I started investing, and part of my investing was taking over or buying businesses and starting businesses. So I've had 15 of my own businesses. A couple I've grown to $1 million. One I grew to $6 million. And many of them
awesome.
I had concurrently while I had a full-time job. So I had to learn how to delegate and lead
Yes,
through
you
my people.
did. You had to keep those businesses flowing while you were working the W-2 job. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh my
Exactly.
goodness.
So with that, that was a lot of that experience. Now I had a unique advantage of in 2017, the last company I worked with, we sold that company. And when we sold that company, I had a nice exit. And so I had to decide, okay, what I'm going to do. By the way, it was what they call a change of control bonus. I was not an owner. So as an
Oh,
executive,
okay.
yeah. And when you do a change of control bonus, it's a nice piece of nice chunk of money, but it's not enough
This
to
chunk of
retire on.
change. Got it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had to go figure
Okay.
out what I'm going to do now that
Registered.
I'm
Yeah.
so yeah, so that led me to I got a lot of experience in a lot of different areas. I think that this coaching thing might be a thing to do, and so I kind of got into business
Hmm.
coaching. So
I
I
love
started
that.
in 2019. Been doing that actually next month. Actually, in a week will be my 1 year anniversary. So, or sorry,
Oh, all right.
6 year. My bad, 6 year anniversary.
Hey, I don't know math, so I didn't even call you out on it. Like, what year is it? I don't even know what day it is. Uh, That's awesome. No, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that you're a great guest when it comes to talking about delegation. As we chatted about a little bit before we hit record, I think of the word delegation in many ways. It can be literal with handing off something, a task to be done by somebody else. It can be literally handing off a whole chunk of your business to somebody else, like marketing or something.
Right. Yep.
Um, but it can also be kind of getting creative with your delegation just because you are not a man with 15 arms and 15 brains and sets of hands that can do everything. And so, like when you started your biz coaching, what were people saying? Like, what did you suggest for them? Or where were they at in their businesses in general? Like most of them.
Yeah, I would predominantly, most of our clients are, I would even say, actually, right now, today, about a third of our clients are solopreneurs. That's
Okay.
a whole avenue that I did not start with. When I started the business, it was high ticket. I was looking for clients that were in the multi-million range already.
Yeah.
And that was, that was how I was going to fund my growth of the business.
Right.
But what I realized was how I was building the business was through networking. And the challenge that I was running into is that the average room that I was in, only one or two people out of 20 were qualified to be a high ticket client. And
Right.
so I kept running into these 18 other people that needed coaching or needed some guidance or insight that I had that I could provide, but they couldn't afford my high ticket program. So I had to create
Yeah.
something, or I felt compelled to create something. And that's where we created the group coaching model that we have today, where we take a number of people and put them in a room and provide general coaching that allows them to ask specific questions about their business.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's great though. No, I get that 100%.
Yeah.
Because it's good what you're doing. I use this little analogy of like, it's hard because when you make that decision to work with people that aren't in those millions up there in the clouds, if they're going to work with you, they've really thought about it and they are investing. And to me, that's a really ideal person because they're committed. When money's involved like that, they're committed.
Right.
And so when you work with a client, do you have is it a team of you? Are you one-on-one? Who do you got working the business on the back end?
Yeah, great question. So it's a combination of often it's at least in the early days it was me. Right?
Yeah, I
And
remember.
then
Me too.
as I scaled, I started bringing in virtual assistants that would help facilitate certain tasks or something like that. again, going back to my experience, what would happen is I'd work with a client and I'd identify that there's a need for a particular type of solution to implement, right, in their business. The problem is they don't have the bandwidth to implement it, right, or the experience. So the challenge becomes, okay, hey, you know what? I identified you're doing $1 million a year. You're probably leaving 200,000 a year on the table because you're not following up with your existing clients and remarketing to them.
Right.
Simple email drip campaign. Well, simple email drip campaign means to the small business owner, whole blown, right? It's like, what does that even look like, right?
No, my sink's fine. Thanks. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
dripping. But I get what you're saying, because I think you're going into the fact that there are people that understand drip campaigns and that are better at it than me.
Yep.
And so why don't I just think about finding somebody that can help me out with that?
That's it. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. Yeah.
Okay.
So
That's cool because
that
keep
was
going.
a big component. Yeah, no, I was just saying that was just a big component because part of the problem was you would give them a suggestion as a coach, but they can't implement it because they don't have the resources or the solution for it. And so I started building relationships with vendor solutions, with whether it was a marketing agency or some freelance solution, and then we started incorporating VAs that would actually build the model for them and put it in place, because that was to get the owner to move from where they were to where they wanted to go required a skill set
Right.
or a solution that they weren't prepared to introduce.
Yeah. And time.
Yeah.
Time to, if you're trying to do it all your own, you got to learn it and you got to try to take time to figure it out. And that's a waste of time. So don't do it, everybody. Don't do it. Take a chance. Make an investment.
Exactly.
That's much easier said than done. Being a solopreneur like myself, in the beginning, it was like, I can just do it better myself. Or I faster, or I can figure this out, and that's a lot of the mentality that people have as solopreneurs, especially if they're bootstrappers, right?
Yep. Agreed.
If we don't have any funding and we're just doing this, if you were like me, like I'm out of corporate, I'm just going to make what I made in corporate. And, I thought that'd be easy. Not so much. So in your program, do you teach like sales and like all the aspects of running a business, or they kind of already know that and you're kind of leveling them up?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. That's where the 6 core competencies come into play. So those 6 core competencies are the 6 key things that really are necessary for any business to be successful. And it starts, so the way that I identify the 6 core competencies starts with leadership or vision. Whoever's in charge of the company, and let's say if you're a solopreneur, you're in charge of the company, you're the visionary. You're the one that has the vision of where you're going to go and what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, where you're going to, ideally, how you're going to get there. As we know, for those who've been around for a while, that changes over time.
Yes, it does.
But the key is to make sure that you're out in front and kind of making decisions that are going to allow you to then build the model around and move forward, right? So, but then what I identified many times is a lot of solopreneurs, a lot of small business owners, not just solopreneurs, all small business owners, don't necessarily have a good vision. Like they got started and they're making money, but they're not thinking about what next year,
where they're going.
2 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, there's an interesting statistic. 80% of business owners that list their business to sell it never sell their business.
Really? That's a big percentage. Wow.
It's a huge percentage. Yeah.
I'm thinking back to my corporate days and sitting next to the CEOs of companies that sold. So I've been through the M&A funness, and thinking of all that goes into that kind of transaction. I kind of can understand why that number is so low.
Yeah.
Or so high that they don't. Yeah. The good ones are low. Well, that's high. Yeah, I get it.
And they do a lot of
It's a
due
lot.
diligence. Yeah.
That's the word I was going to try to get out next, the due diligence. Yeah. There's a lot to it. And so if I came to you where I'm at and I understand the concept of it, but I'm just like frazzled and ready to step out of my business, like, gosh, where do I go if I'm just don't have enough time to do all this due diligence crap. Help me. No, like where would somebody even start? I mean, like I get emails and things from people, saying like, would you like to sell your business? I'm like, well, sure, but I don't have anything for you. Like, is that part of your 6 core competencies? Like starting to identify the stuff you would need in order to sell a business kind of thing?
Yeah. So ironically, the 6 core competencies extends out of that, because as I've acquired a half a dozen businesses of my own, I've been
Right.
part of companies that bought businesses, like you mentioned. In my corporate space, I did that. And so what
Mhm.
I've identified is those 6 core competencies are the things that if you you execute them effectively and you build the model correctly, because delegation, right, is one of the primary things that business owners struggle with. Even ones that are doing a couple of million a year often are the bottleneck for the business,
Yes, sir.
right?
We
And
are. We
so
are.
and that's what makes it so hard for them to sell the business, because they're doing everything. It doesn't transition as an asset the way it would is if if it was, if everybody, there was department heads for every department, and you could sell it as a transitional asset and all of the pieces would stay in place. But if the owner does the sales, and let's say the manages the finances, or the majority of the
Mhm.
finance stuff, and makes all those
Right.
strategic decisions, then when they go to sell that, whoever's buying it has to be able to fulfill those needs that were being provided by the business owner. So if I'm an
Yeah.
investor, I don't want to buy a business that has gaps in it. I want one that's fully
Yeah.
vetted and all working.
And just gonna be a smooth transition right on over. Yeah,
Exactly.
for sure.
Yeah. So
So
what those 6 core competencies do is it touches all the components. You have leadership, finances, sales and marketing, operations,
okay.
HR, human relationship stuff, and then client fulfillment.
Yeah, I like that part. I like the last one. All the other stuff you just have to do.
Right.
That's cool though. No, so how long did you say you've been doing my biz coaches?
6 years.
6 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So I ask this out of every client or every client. Flub that, pause that out there, snip that out. I'm going to count back and we'll start over. Snip. 3, 2, 1. I like to think about things that you can give as takeaways today. And one of those things that like is resonating with me is, in your business right now, say you wanted to sell today. Who do you lean on the most that you have delegated to, or that to help do this due diligence for you? And do you have somebody that you have could do that for you?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so we're
Great
not the
question.
primary person doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, if I was going to sell, well, part of the reason that I just recently in March brought on a partner,
Okay.
and the primary reason I brought on the partner is I realized, okay, the business is not growing because I'm holding it back. There are things that I'm holding on to that I need to relinquish, and or I need somebody who's even better at than I am
Hmm.
doing this particular skill. And in
Yeah.
her particular case, her genius is she brings she's the consummate connector. She's constantly connecting people, and she's a great resource for partnerships as well as deal making. And
Okay.
so, yeah, so she's brought coaches to the table for us, and now we have
Nice.
a total of 28 coaches. But she also finds clients for us, and but that mix of solutions that she brings to the table that allows me then to focus on the bigger picture stuff that I want to try and do to take the business to the next level.
Is she available? No, just kidding. That's what I call cross delegation. You found a partner, which
Yes.
is a really good thing. Like I've been through a couple partners, and that didn't work. That didn't work out. We amicably divorced. But I always wonder if that is where I need to go. So I get creative, and that cross delegation to like my spouse comes across. I've delegated to my sister. I've delegated to my daughter. When the money isn't there, get creative, folks. It's
Yeah.
like if you
Yeah.
run like a membership organization, you can delegate to volunteers. There's so many ways to delegate. Or I was telling Eric before we started as well that we can delegate your mind. And especially for what he does. Like me, if I was talking to him for the first time, I'd have to get rid of all these old feelings I have about coaches. Sorry, coaches, you're my faves. I've had a coach, and I've had people tell me to coach, and I'm like, I don't want to be a coach. I like calling myself a mentor. Mentor sounds better than coach. Because I'm just making suggestions,
There you go.
whether you do it or not. Um, but yeah, so let's see what else. So if we could drop something today that could be like I call them golden nuggets,
Mm.
not McNuggets. Um, golden nuggets. They're gold too, though. I digress. um, a couple golden nuggets of wisdom that helped you along your journey, like from their background in corporate into selling businesses, all that. What do you think empowered you by in the form of delegation? And what
Mm.
did you let go of that they can take away, knowing that here's somebody who coaches business owners and does a podcast about coaching. I don't know if it's about coaching or helping people. Um, and what can they pull away from this today as a couple of golden nuggets and that maybe you've done and you can help share with them, to give them the desire or the ability to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that the I have two right off the top of my head all throughout there. First one is
Okay.
the first book I wrote was Success with Goals. And when I wrote it, I was actually envisioning myself as a life coach. And then I eventually
Okay.
transitioned to a business coach. Ironically, I didn't see it as part of my new brand when I positioned myself as a business coach. And I thought, it, the title maybe, but more specifically, what ironically came out of it is that has now become even the 10 steps that I do in the goal setting process has become the business planning. As a matter of fact, I'm in the
Mm,
process of rewriting it as a business plan, helping people develop a business plan. And I don't mean it
yeah.
as I'm going to start my business, write a business plan. I mean it as each year when you reevaluate what your goals are for the year, you need to be thinking strategically in this 10-step process about achieving those goals and what is that going to look like. Because what I
Yeah.
identified, and I referenced it earlier, the biggest challenge I see with most small business owners, why they're not getting to where they want to go. And it doesn't matter if you're a solopreneur or you're doing 10 million a year. If you're stuck, the reason you're stuck is you're not clear on where you want to go next. So
Absolutely.
part
Gosh.
of the challenge
Yes.
is taking the time to identify what do you want it to look like, and then backing into a plan that helps you get from where you are to what that new vision looks like.
Mm, okay. Love it.
So
Okay. What's that other one? What's the
So
next
the other
nugget?
one is and this is directly related to your delegation. It is as it relates to time management.
Okay.
Again, for business owners, the biggest challenge we see, they try and do too much. They try and do everything themselves. And I'm not standing on the hill speaking down. Right. I am literally living this myself. Right. And sharing this as an experience as well.
Same.
But the truth of the matter is that we have a tendency to get caught up running our multi-million-dollar business doing $10 tasks. And so
Yeah.
the
So
challenge
true.
is, yeah, so the challenge becomes how do I know what to delegate? And so what I like to
Mm.
help people identify is, okay, let's envision what you want to value your time at. Let's give it a dollar amount. Whatever that dollar amount is, doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Let's just say, for the
Right.
sake of argument, you want to analyze yourself at uh, $100 an hour. $100 an hour, 2,000 hours, you make $200,000 a year. So that's good target income to shoot for, right? So
Yeah.
if at $100 an hour, now here's the thing we have to understand: at $100 an hour, you are only doing the work that you were meant to be doing about a third of the time, if not even
Yep.
potentially less than that.
Yep.
So if you're a coach, you're coaching a third of the time. The other
Mm.
2/3 of the time, you're doing admin tasks, marketing things, sales conversations, right? So
Yep.
you're only doing what you get paid to do about a third of the time. So
Yeah.
realistically, your time's not worth $100 an hour. Your time's worth $300 an hour.
Yeah. Ooh, look at him mathing. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. I've only done this a
And
few
that
times.
just, I mean, because then I hear that number, I'm like, oh my God, I'm worth a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. And what am I doing? Like
It-
doing social, playing on my social media over here and chat GPT and things. Like, what am I doing today? Goodness
but
gracious. Yeah.
that's the challenge, though, right? If your time is
Hmm.
worth $300 an hour, now uploading the business cards that you haven't put in the CRM,
Yep.
you know, that's a $10 an hour task. That could be a $20 an hour task. It's still something you shouldn't be doing. You should be delegating to somebody.
Hmm.
And one of the things that we educate our clients on is like, I know it sounds like it's a really big task, but hiring a VA, a virtual assistant, to 10, 12, $15
Go
an hour.
VAs.
Yeah. To come in and do those tasks for us, and even at 20 or $25 an hour, it still
Mhm.
pales in comparison to
It's
the
less than
$300.
your worth,
That's the
right?
idea. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And if
And
you
it
think
and the
about it,
relief, the burden that I mean, there's
yes.
so much soft value to it too,
Well, and
the
here's the other
burden.
thing, and they tie together. If I'm spending all my time doing these $10, $20 hour tasks, right? When my time's worth $300 an hour, when I
Right.
start handing those off, when I start delegating those tasks off and somebody else is doing it, what that does for me is that actually opens brain space. And now I can think critically about my business and really operate on my business instead of just in my business.
And that sounds a little cliche, but I use that term always because
Always.
it's a big thing in my field to say
Yep.
that because it is super accurate. Because I have been, I was an assistant for 30 years and I have been in the weeds. But as a CEO, when I start to feel like I'm assisting myself, that's like wrong. Like I shouldn't be in those weeds. I should now be that visionary instead of the details person because that is where I am going to grow the business. And
Well, it's your
that
vision.
is a fact, Jack.
Right. Exactly. And that's the
Mm,
that's the key though, that it's your vision.
yeah.
The
Yeah.
business isn't going to go where you want it to go unless you're clear on what your vision is. And if it's your vision, you can't be the one doing the $10 tasks. You have to delegate that at some
Yeah.
point. You have to figure out
Do
how to
you have a
delegate it.
challenge when you delegate? If I can jump in, do you have a challenge when you delegate to get people to understand your passion and your vision? Or do you have tips for that?
It is, say that again. I'm not sure I follow.
It's okay. So when, because what we just talked about was you're the visionary, I'm the
Yep. Yep.
visionary. We're the ones that know where we're going. We have the passion for our business. Have you yourself, in your experience, had challenges in bringing people up to par that you are delegating to really feel and like feel because we're humans we need to feel to perform and I was always a better executive assistant when I saw my boss's vision and I was let into the fold like I knew what was going on. Have you had any difficulties in your experience and even in the retail in the cell phone days or whatever you said you were in
Yeah.
telecom or whatever
Yeah.
days like can you think of any examples of when it just went awry like oh this person doesn't get me.
Yeah. On many occasions.
Many okay, good. It's not just me then. Okay, good.
um,
Anything come
yeah.
to mind that you can
Uh,
share a story or anything?
yeah. Absolutely. I can give an experience. I had somebody, so I have a background in accounting, so I'm fairly good with spreadsheets and numbers and all that kind of stuff. It's probably my geek genius, right? So, um, when we early days of the wireless retail channel, I'm going to say I was probably in at that point 6 years or so, and I'm the division leader for the whole market of Washington, state of Washington, and we're tracking sales numbers. And the only way back then we didn't have point of sale systems the same way that we do today. So back then the only way you could track it is people would literally call or text their numbers in to a
Mm,
sales manager, and the sales manager would
wow.
gather them and put them in a spreadsheet. And so I didn't like the fact that it would take me days and weeks to get all of my data.
Yeah.
So I built a spreadsheet that every store they would have a shared drive. They would all access
Mhm.
the file on a shared drive. This is the early days of Google Docs, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
they would all put their information in, and then it would all compile into one spreadsheet. And then I could look at all of my data in one day for 24 hours in a period. And I could see not only what we did today, but what we had done for weeks and months leading up to that.
Yeah.
So I've got all of my data. I'm all excited about that. And I'm struggling because now what had happened was I brought on an assistant. We had grown to the point where I needed an assistant to help manage all of this. I handed that task off to an assistant. That assistant did not understand how important that data was to me. And I did not do a good job of explaining to her how valuable that data was and what it was used for. And on multiple occasions, I would find myself super frustrated because it wasn't being updated. and in a timely manner on top of that, right? So it required some, anyway. So what ended up happening was it was after about the fifth or sixth time that she broke the spreadsheet because she didn't pay attention to where she put the information. Oh, this is a cell that has a formula. Don't break the formula. That kind of stuff. I was just like, after spending, and it took hours and hours to build this thing. I just like I probably put in 30 some odd hours to build the initially. And then
my goodness.
She's 3 weeks on the job, and after the fourth time I had to fix it, I was just like, oh, this is not working. But but part of it was it was the issue is, and I think we do this when we delegate. This is one of the bigger problems we have. I did not one take the time to make sure she understood the tool I was asking her to use. I went under the assumption that she should understand or she knew, and gross assumption. We all know that you don't you don't assume, right?
Yep.
So, but it was super frustrating and major learning experience. Ironically,
I was gonna say you learned some lessons there right away.
Big time, yeah. What really came out of that was the value of a really good assistant. So you yourself, having played a similar role in your career, I know how valuable somebody in your role is when it's done right.
Thank you.
Because it makes somebody like my job so much easier when what I need is there and available to me when I need it.
Yeah, there's so many different varieties of me, my former life now. And I heard you say something about that you would just like totally be grooved into right now. And I know a lot of operations professionals and they love dashboards.
Yep.
I don't even know what a dashboard. I say dashboard, I think of a car. I don't know. But there's VAs like on my team that can do, they're ops pros that do dashboards. Like I'm just saying out there, people, there are people that can do that kind of stuff. And you need the admin persons doing admin work instead of math. Not speaking from experience, I swear. I was the one that wore all the hats in a lot of my jobs, on behalf of the CEOs. I still love you guys. You all were a part of my story, good or bad. But yeah, that's amazing. I think we talked about that we were probably in the telecom industry during the bust, probably about the same time. So I can relate to that. Then I was in like the home building industry when that bust happened. But it's every little notch and every little thing that takes us down that rises us up. And I mean, I'm living proof of if just a secretary can run a company, then and be intuitive enough and introspective enough to realize I'm not good at delegating. But let me listen to some podcasts and talk to some coaches and delegate my old mindset and figure that out. I'm going to be a better CEO.
Absolutely.
Yep. And so if you were to say that you had, I'm just going to dig. What are you bad at delegating?
Ooh. Well, okay. So that it would definitely be sales reporting.
Okay. Yep. That very important number stuff. Yeah.
Well, and because it's my core knowledge, right? It's what I lean on, right? And it's hard to hand off something that's that valuable. And at the same time, when it comes naturally to you, you're like, oh, it'll only take me a few minutes, right?
Right. That's so true. Oh, you're in my head right now. Like that. So admittedly, so what's the number one thing an EA does in corporate? It's scheduling, travel, that kind of stuff. I have a VA that supports me. Do I let her in my calendar? Nope. Nobody can do calendars like I can. I'm the Tetris queen.
Exactly.
But I know that I'm aware of it and it's going to happen one day. I just have to pull the trigger. Oh, I don't like to say pull the trigger. That sounds horrible. I like push the button. Here,
there you go.
Do you remember these?
The easy button. I was just going to say easy button.
I just found these. We had a garage sale. I found this in my junk. Oh my God, I missed that button. I used to have that on my desk at work.
That's so funny.
Hope it's not like trademarked and I can't have it on the show. I think it goes back to the 90s. I won't say the company name. Only those of us old enough to remember it. That's awesome. No, I love that you have strategy and straight talk because that's how I have evolved. I'm not going to say I started that way.
Yeah.
But I've become way more strategic and way more able to be a straight talker. And I think I agree with you that that's something that's super important when you're coaching somebody, when I'm mentoring people, just say what you mean and mean what you say, and ask questions, get clarity. And I hope you share that with your people too. If you don't understand something, if you're in that gray zone, say it back to me. That
Yeah,
old fashioned repeat that person.
that's it.
So what I hear you saying is blah, blah, blah. It may feel like it's like a waste of time, but ooh,
Mm-mm.
that gets you out of that gray zone, and it gets me off the hook so many times. And then what I will also share with you is that, if someday you feel like you can live more in your zone of genius and get out of the weeds a little bit, um, you know, trust but verify. If with those, trust that you've trained somebody right, you've checked their background, they know what you know, they seem to have the same experience. Put a little trust and faith into it, but verify the shit out of that. Make sure they're doing it right before the whole thing goes kaput.
Well, and honestly, I would say that that's probably particularly for entrepreneurs, business owners,
Mhm,
that's their
mhm.
biggest mistake when it comes to delegating. Yeah, besides identifying whether or not you're clear on what the expectations are, the next biggest mistake they make is they have not identified what right looks like for the individual,
Right?
right?
Yeah,
And so whether they let it go or not is irrelevant. The problem is that like they'll delegate it and then they don't go back and verify, did
right,
it get done? Oh, I gave it to
right.
you. Well, it's great you gave it to me, but that doesn't mean that I got done, right? And so now I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. And don't forget accountability. Like, especially in this remote world that a lot of us work in now,
Yes.
we don't know what somebody's doing. Like, I don't expect them to be at their desk 9 to 5, whatever, as long as the work that they're supposed to be doing is getting done for the clients. But it's all that accountability. If there's a way you can weave that into your business and the people that you're delegating to with a basic timesheet or project management tool or a weekly check in call, something they've got to have some accountability. Or what I used to say is I was just like throwing money at people because I had that blind trust. But then I learned that. Then my husband kept pounding in trust, but verify. What the heck did you do? Are you throwing money at that person again? Stop it. I'm like, but they
Exactly.
said they would do it. There's got to be some kind of verification there. And people like, you gotta look for proof.
Yeah. You know,
You
it's
can even do
interesting.
the try before you buy too, if you can have that option.
It's interesting. I wonder if that one was harder for you because you were so used to being the person that was entrusted to do the task that
Yeah.
you felt the obligation to do it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yes, I felt that. That just
Yeah.
punched me. It just punched me in the gut with that one. That's probably true. And oh boy, thank you for that. Ooh,
Yeah.
that takes me back because of the many, many times that I did not feel trusted
Right.
by my old bosses, where I knew that I was trustworthy, and then they would not let me into their inbox or something
Right.
like that. And I'm like, I could make your life and your time so much better if you let me in the inbox. I'm like, what are you doing? Watching porn? I don't know what, getting emails from your mistress? Why can't
Right.
I be in your inbox? I'll just file that into the mistress box and keep it to myself. I don't want to get fired. Didn't that just happen in the news recently to some big executive?
Did it really?
I mean, I could not figure out why they, wouldn't let me in their inbox. But then on the flip side, now that I've done it, nobody's been in my inbox either. And there is no porn in there. There's no Mister in there. Stuff. But it's like, how could anybody know what I think I need to follow up on? Or it just takes time. Everybody, it takes time. It takes relationship building and trust, proven trustworthiness. Um, and you just say, don't delete anything. Just put it in a file and I'll check it later. Put it in the check it later. I'm unsure file until you get to know me.
Right.
And like you said, you delegate to VAs, and I can obviously talk about that. It takes about 90 days to really find your cadence, and for them to get to know you and your work methods and what you like and don't like and that kind of thing. And I think that's a key takeaway too, is about 90 days, I think is probably good for almost any type of thing that you outsource, to find if it's really going to work, unless they do something awful within the first 2 weeks or something. But 90-day mark, I think, is a good marking point for anybody to know if it's going to work. And so long as you keep the lines of communications open and you give them feedback, and so they keep
Yes.
learning and getting to know you better. I would you agree?
100%. 100%.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Can I be a coach on your team? No, just kidding. I haven't thought about my fourth act yet. I was going to do that. I was going to do that voiceover stuff for the third act.
Well, again, I would reference, and this is where I think it's really interesting because, as you know, we have multiple coaches, and each of them has their own disciplines where they're deeper in, right? They may have some general knowledge of a lot of areas, but
Right.
some are CFOs, fractional CFOs, some are fractional
Yeah.
COOs, right? And so
Right.
they have depth and understanding in certain areas. Some are fractional CMOs. But what's interesting, you just made a comment that I think that's relevant to kind of consider.
Uh-huh.
You're identifying, 90 days for somebody to feel that cadence and that
Yeah.
level of comfortableness to be able to hand certain things off to. I brought on a VA 45 days ago. We
Mhm.
have just now gotten to the point where I'm comfortable. We're 2 weeks ahead in my in creating all my content. So I have
Mhm.
2 weeks of content, 2 posts a day, and it's 2 weeks out, and we build a cadence on the graphics that she's putting together along with the content. And she's filing it, and I know where it's at now, and we're finding that.
Cool.
And now we just added 2 new things. So,
Hey, when it starts working, just pile it onto her plate. More
but
stuff.
that's to your point though. I have not even considered giving her my inbox.
Oh, I'm glad I've told you that. And
We're not there
really,
yet.
honestly, it's hard. And I admit it is hard. But
Yeah.
like I said, I have nothing crazy in there, but it's just like, oh, and honestly, it's happened in my business where somebody did give somebody an inbox and it got messed up. They were deleting things that shouldn't have been deleted. But in this world of the remote clouds,
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
can be recovered through Microsoft, through Google. Things can be recovered in emergencies. So, that's the thing that you just ask whoever your provider is. If it's on an agency like mine, you would ask me or whoever the account manager was, like, what happens if, or do
Right.
you have insurance
Right. Right.
for errors and omissions? Because I
So you
had to
don't
learn
have to
that the
drop the
hard way
F-bomb.
too. That's cool. Well, I think that's a good note to start on, because we are smiling and we are making epiphanies and we're realizing that we could do better. We could do more things, and we could continue to learn from one another, but we would talk for days. So I know I'm going to go listen to some of your podcast episodes for sure. And I just want to say thanks so much for taking a chance
Absolutely.
and replying, unless your VA did it,
Yeah.
replying to my cold
No,
outreach.
she hasn't got that access
She
yet.
hasn't gone into cold outreach or DMs and LinkedIn yet. That's something
Not
a
yet.
VA can do. And I'm just going to throw it in there. But I don't like to sell my business on my podcast. But so I'm just saying the VA industry as a whole, we'll just say it that way. You can have more than one VA.
Yeah.
And they do more than one thing. So, hey, you can either build the scope of the one you have, but is that keeping them in their zone of genius, or bringing another one who can do something else? Just saying.
Valid point. Very valid point.
Yes,
We
yes,
look at the
yes.
same way
But
with
it's not
coaching.
only VAs. I hope you use there's social media agencies and there's marketing agencies. And the number one thing people say they outsource on my podcast so far is bookkeeping.
Yeah, I can
And
see that.
I think bookkeeping and social media were my first two. And then I went into account management and, and I'm growing from there, still growing. I'm 10 years in and I'm still learning how to delegate. Not learning. I am the expert. That's why people listen to this show, right? I'm learning to accept what is it like? Don't do what I say,
But do
do
as
what
I
I
say.
say, not what I do. Yeah.
Do as I say, not as I do.
But honestly, I know what I'm not good at. And I have talked to a coach about how to get out of my own head with that stuff. So be open to talking to some coaches to know what they're talking about too, because they've lived some lives. They have, like me and Eric, we've been around a little bit.
Yeah, done a few things.
We know some working for big companies, some selling companies, some buying companies, and growing companies. So look for the people like Eric.
Yeah,
I
I'm
will
gonna
leave all his information in the section below. And thanks again. I really
absolutely.
appreciate you spending some time with me today. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I hope that we can reconnect again soon. Any last words of wisdom before I cut us off?
I was just going to say, yeah, I think that I think the value that both of us bring to the clients that we work with is that it's yeah, I'm going to steal the phrase that we know a few things because we've seen a few things.
I love it. And that's a golden nugget. And I say that so that my transcript reader will read that.
There you go.
That is a golden nugget. Yes. Oh, we don't know what we don't know, right?
That's
We
right.
can't just proclaim to know it. All right.
Right.
Well, everybody have a fantabulous day. And please listen and subscribe and keep watching the show on YouTube and give me a little review. Let me know if this is jiving with you. If you like what you heard today from Eric, I will also put some links to check out his work, and so you can connect with him on LinkedIn or check out his company website and things like that. And delegate to elevate, people. Get done. See you next time. Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Have you ever felt frustrated, overwhelmed, or stuck wasting time in admin instead of growing, leveraging, and scaling your business? Then this podcast is for you. Welcome to Delegate to Elevate, the podcast that's all about handing off what you don't need to do so you can focus on what you do best. So here's your host, Bonnie Schutz